with the broad access to cameras as well as popularity of social media, police shootings are coming under stronger scrutiny. But one expert on police relations says the issues stem from long-standing problems between the law and the community. CBS North Carolina's Steve Sprasia speaking with that expert today. He joins us now from Durham with his story. Steve?
Well, he is a former police chief. He now teaches here at NCCU, teaches criminal justice, and he says the relationship between law enforcement and black men, especially young black men, has to change. And he says it can't be a one-sided change that occurs. This week's fatal police shootings in Louisiana and Minnesota may have gone viral, but in some ways, Professor Chris Herring says, they are old news.
Unfortunately, there is absolutely nothing new. You know, we can go back from the past 7 decades or so and speak about cities burning due to relationships between, more specifically, African-American males and law enforcement.
As a former police chief with decades of service, Herring says we all need to use what is happening as a wake-up call.
This is an opportunity now for folks to finally turn from the reactive response to the proactive response. And I mean that for the African-American community as well as the law enforcement organizations.
In the community, some think part of the problem is due to intolerance.
We as blacks and African-Americans, we kind of catching the raw deal, man. And I think it's because of stereotypes. I think that the police are fearful.
Professor Herring says changing the culture of law enforcement is important, but the community has to change attitudes, too.
Here's what's so important, Steve, is for the black community to say, okay, we are going to proactively engage our law enforcement communities to do what we need to do to make sure that we all find this common ground, because ultimately what we're speaking about is stopping the violence.
And he says besides the police, there's another organization which needs to step in.
There's so much more that the church community can do to make sure that there's an education piece, but also a spiritual piece, a strategic piece to address the situation.
And the professor says, well, we're dealing with that issue. We also can't lose sight of the fact that in this country we have to deal with drugs, gangs, and all kinds of other crime issues. He says all that also needs to be kept in focus. Reporting live from Durham, Steve Sprasia, CBS, North Carolina.
Steve.